Welcome back to Unscripted, the Field of 68's Michigan State basketball podcast. We're going to try to power through this one. It's been a rough week for the Spartans. If you're watching the video version of this, you can see the pain in my co-host Carter Elliott's eyes right now. But we try to sweeten things up for him. We brought on a friend of the Sleepers and a great guest that we've had on in the past, Brandon Wood, former Michigan State Spartan guard. Brandon, thank you for being here, man. How you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Always.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, Brandon. You probably the only reason I'm here right now because I'm down pretty bad. People who watched the last couple episodes of Unscripted, I've had my victory Michigan State shades on. Those shades are nowhere to be found. They are somewhere packed away, nowhere to be found. Coming off two bad losses. We'll get.
What you broke them, man?
Man, I need to break them. I don't know if I'm gonna break them out.
Come on.
I'm down bad right now. I'm sorry.
Look, we don't duck smoke. Okay, we've talked about that very clearly. And Carter throws it out when things are going well for the Spartans. It's time for him to take it a little bit on the negative side. But we're gonna start by looking at some things specifically in the Wisconsin game. I know we haven't done an episode since prior to the Rutgers game as well. We could really go in depth on both of those, but to spare Carter Elliott's morale, we're going to really just focus in on Wisconsin today. And then we'll do some big picture, sort of what does this mean for Michigan State, try to dissect their issues, figure out if these are here to stay or if it's just a blip on the radar. So Cart, I was saying before we recorded here, I did not watch this game live. My high school team had a game at the same time. So I was getting score updates. I watched the replay of it today. But Cart, you were suffering in real time. So kind of just take us through your quick takeaways from watching that game live. What did it feel like? What was going wrong?
Well, first off, another slow start for MSU. I feel like that's been a theme this year. In every single game, I think we've gotten off to a slow start. Even the game that we won in Madison, we got off to a slow start. We found ourselves down 10-2 early. Once again, in this game, we started the game off with turnovers, missed shots, missed cues on the defensive end. So another slow start was something that we had to deal with. And I think the main takeaway for the whole game, and especially the first half, was just no real continuity with the team. There was a shuffling of lineups. Couldn't really find anything that worked with anybody. Bingham showed some promise with some good moves early going towards the basket, which was great to see. But then, as per what we've seen the rest of the year, this whole year, he was pulled about 2 to 3 minutes into the game, right around the 17-minute mark for Julius Marble. And I thought Julius, in all honesty, struggled mightily on the defensive end. There was a lot of misassignments for him, not communicating on double teams, and it led to easy layups for Wall and Davis. And it might have been key to Davis getting going in this game. I don't know if I can point to any positives, to be honest with you, G. I really can't. And you might think I'm sounding like a negative Nelly, but to be honest, there wasn't really that many positives out of this whole game. I don't know if you could tell from watching the Matthew Loves Ball, kind of condensed highlights of the game, but there was a lot of things that went wrong for Michigan State in this game, like top to bottom.
Yeah, I feel like you miss out on that, right? And Matthew Loves Ball does great work. It's great that you can flip on any game that you miss and see a 20-minute summary of every single shot, every single score. But I feel like you lose the rhythm of a game, which is what's beautiful about basketball, right? Like there's a stop every 4 minutes. Momentum is a huge thing. You see the swings in real time. You see the ups and the downs. So I do feel like I missed out on that. I can tell that it must have been a frustrating game to go through for these guys, right? Like it's one of those games, and this happens playing Wisconsin. Brandy, I'm sure you can tell us about this, but like Wisconsin wants to muck things up, right? They want to just make it like a slow grind of a frustrating game. And if you're struggling offensively against Wisconsin, like that's a hard thing to get out of. Brandon, what was it like playing the Badgers when you were at Michigan State?
My first memory is just the game when we played at their place. I think they just played the replay on the Big Ten Network yesterday, I believe. So it was the game at the end of the regulation where Ryan Evans hit that fadeaway three, and the shot clock was different than the game clock. So that's always one of the good memories, you know, of looking back on that season and just thinking about the individual games. I know for us, that was a good game, you know, just throughout the game. I remember they're very competitive. You know, it was a game where we really had to be locked in on defense to where, you know, we knew we couldn't make any small mistakes because they were going to take advantage of it and, you know, get some easy buckets and just get in that rhythm. And, you know, but yeah, I remember that game. It was a good game for us. You know, so I don't know, you know, I was only there 1 year. So to really know, I don't really know I wouldn't say I know the history or culture of Wisconsin, you know, besides just them being tough and, you know, being well coached and real solid team. But, you know, that was a tough game for us, but thankfully we won.
Yeah, the Wisconsin adjectives always get to me. Play hard, tough, gritty. Yeah. Just execution. Just
that's everybody.
I know it really was that though. Even honestly, Wisconsin didn't play that well yesterday. Like it's not like they went out there and beat us. And I think that's what the most frustrating part about some of these Michigan State losses is we're not giving teams our best punch. That's my phrase, G. Like you gotta be able to take the best punch. No one's getting Michigan State's best punch right now. They aren't. I'm sorry.
Would you say Michigan State's getting other teams' best punches though?
No, but we're also not dishing out any of our best punches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of have to disagree. And again, you have veto power this episode, which is a horrible feeling for me because normally I like to put my foot down and tell you when you're wrong and I'm right. But like ultimately you watch the game live. So you can tell me if what I'm saying is wrong here. But like Johnny Davis was 8 for 11 for 25 points in this game. Like whether you want to say Wisconsin as a whole didn't throw their best punch, they have a superstar who can go get you 25 points on 11 shots any given night. And Johnny Davis was very bad in Madison when Michigan State beat Wisconsin. Johnny Davis has been slumping for 2 weeks. He was everyone's National Player of the Year frontrunner, and then he hasn't made shots for 2 weeks until this game. But when it comes back to, for me, Card, is Michigan State doesn't have that guy. And I've been using the word identity to you in text on the side, but like, I still don't know what this Michigan State team's best version of itself is from an identity standpoint. I know that there's the tropes of the Michigan State program that are always going to be there. They're going to get out and run. They're going to be tough internally. They're going to be good on the boards, although this team hasn't been as good as most Michigan State teams on the board.
I was going to say, everything you just said, I don't know if we're exactly doing. I don't think we're the best on the boards. I don't think we're out-toughing anybody right now. We're not. You know, we got out-toughed at the game in Rutgers. I thought that we kind of got, I would use the word punked. I think they punked us in that game. Yes, it was a tough, you know, environment. You know, they got the rack magic and, you know, they call it Jersey Mike's. It'll always be the rack. I don't really care. It is the rack, and it's tough to beat Rutgers there. But, like, we just got out-toughed in that game, and there was a lot of things that I feel like we laid down and died in that game. That's the thing. So that sucks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
AKA you're not giving your best punch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm less upset and less worried from the Rutgers game than I honestly am from what I saw in the Wisconsin game, which is crazy. But like, I don't know. Michigan State loses games on the road. Everybody loses games on the road. It happens, right? Like last year, what was the Rutgers score? They lost by like 30 to Rutgers last season. I know you've always said, close the book. We're not talking about last year. This year is different. I'm with you on that. But also, like, all these guys, except for Tyson Walker and Max Christie, were on this team last year, right? Like part of what made last year's team limited was that none of these guys are alphas. Like, as good as Gabe Brown has been for the majority of the season, Gabe Brown has been a role player for 4 years. And I think you're seeing him hit a little bit of a wall right now. Max Christie's a freshman. Like, he's a very talented freshman, but can Max Christie be expected to carry this team offensively every single night? Not right now. Tyson Walker, same thing. Like, this is his first grind through the Big Ten. Brandon, I mean, you transferred for 1 year to Michigan State, and you played a ton of minutes on that team that compared to other transfers, I don't think we've really seen Tom Izzo trust a guy as much as he did when I was going back to what you did in your season there. Tyson's struggling right now. Like, can you speak to what he must be going through as a transfer his first year into the Michigan State program?
I mean, I can only give my perspective on, you know, how it was for me experiencing that situation and that type of transfer. So to assume I could speak on his situation is kind of be speculating, but considering he's had a tough year and kind of been up and down and, has had some higher expectations than what he's kind of lived up to at this point. I mean, it could be tough at that level, the pressure of, performing and producing at that level, the pressure that comes from the fans and the family and your friends, and the pressure that's put on you from the coaches and to perform and know what's at stake and really understand the depths of, who you're playing for and what you're playing for. So, I mean, there's a lot that comes with that mentally that you don't necessarily see on the court that, can sometimes, and in a lot of cases has affected a lot of players, whether it's on a Michigan State team or any team, teams across the country, teams at all levels. So, I mean, there is a lot to balance mentally and emotionally to be prepared and to be able to produce at that level. I know for me in my situation, when I transferred in, I was a fifth year. So I was more experienced. I think he's in like his, second or third year, so I was experienced and I had played for different types of coaches. So, I mean, I was an alpha, on the court. I was an alpha mentally. So it was easy for me to, just go through the pressure and go through the accountability that the coaches hold you to, that standard, and, what we held each other as teammates. It was easy for me to deal with that, even though, I can acknowledge the swaying emotions through different times and experiencing different things. I was able to deal with it pretty well, maybe more well than most. So that's what I could, maybe speak on that. It's tough playing in those situations with what's on the line, and, it'll show you who you are as a person, show your character and, how you, it'll either make you or break you, so although it could be tough at times and it could translate to playing not to your, standard that you want to play at, big picture, it'll help you in the long run. So, that's kind of the perspective I look at it from.
Yeah, because I feel like I mean, this is a fact. No one actually knows what Tyson Walker is going through except for Tyson Walker. So, we can speculate, we can say whatever we want, but, we just have to speak from what we see on the outside looking in. And, coming in from Northeastern, he was a prolific scorer. He was averaging around 18 points a game. He was shooting a lot of shots. He was shooting a variety of shots. And we get to a point where we're at this year where he is still reluctant to shoot. And we get comments from Tom Izzo saying that he's encouraging Tyson to shoot more and he wants Tyson to shoot more and that Tyson can shoot. He shows he can shoot in practice. But it's still to a point where he's still reluctant to shoot and score the basketball.
That kind of speaks for itself. There has to be like a mental block there to where, because that's what I would suggest for him. And from what I've witnessed from Michigan State programs growing up and when I played there, it was like, man, I wish I could have moved over and played the point guard. I wish they would have trusted me to be able to handle the ball, because being the point guard for Michigan State, it's like the game is in your hands and really personally, selfishly, like your future is really in your hands. Yeah. So it's like, if you're a point guard playing for Michigan State, it's like they like you said, they're encouraging him to shoot. So it's like, if I could give him a word of advice, it would be like, man, just play your game, that you go out making a mistake playing your game, and allow them to adjust around how you play, So it's like, it can be kind of challenging taking that role from a lower major school and moving that role and being expected to play the same role at a high major school in a different situation, a different role. And like I said, different pressures on the line. So, I mean, but that kind of speaks for, you gotta be prepared mentally and built mentally for that, transition from level to still be able to play your game, because even though I knew my role was changed, it was like, I knew when I could be aggressive, and I was pretty aggressive as often as I could, so it's like, you just gotta know how to get in where you kind of fit in, and him and being the point guard in the role he's in, I would encourage him to, be confident, be aggressive, and look to score first, and then play around that.
Yeah, Cart, you've said it countless times building up to this point in the season. Like your biggest wish with Tyson was go out and shoot 15 shots in a game. I don't care if you go 0 for 15. You just want to see that.
That's the thing. I understand that you might be going through a mental block. That's just how some people are mentally. There's a great amount of basketball players that aren't able to get over that mental hump or have that mental block. But to me, speaking personally, from a kid who is not a scorer and not a shooter, I would pray to God every single night that my coach encouraged me to go out and get shots and shoot the ball. He shouldn't have to do that. You should want to do that.
But then it's like you think about, you better make them shots too, So it's like you think about missing. So then it's like you kind of just find yourself in that loop of
But that's what kills me right there. I don't even know, because he doesn't give me the opportunity to see if he misses or not. That's what I'm saying. I want to see a 15-shot game from Tyson Walker, and let's just go from there, and then we'll reassess. We'll reassess where we're at as a team. But right now, we're not getting that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. And I think in spite of all of this sort of up and down with him over the last month and a half, there's been a constant belief, I would say, from the fan base and from what I've heard from the coaching staff of Tyson Walker's potential is a lot higher up than what we are seeing. And I still think that's true. You can go back and watch his Northeastern film. The man was a bucket. And there's obviously a lot to transition to, but that said, even in spite of his struggles and acknowledging that he's far from his ceiling as a player, he has not been nearly as bad as he was last night until last night. I mean, he's had off nights where he didn't take a lot of shots, but he's always contributed in the assist columns. He's always still been on the floor for 20, 22 minutes a game, doing some good team oriented things. Last night, he was honestly pretty unplayable from what I saw. In 14 minutes, 0 for 3 from the floor, 1 assist, 1 point, and 2 turnovers. That is not going to cut it in the Big Ten production wise.
Yeah, it was the turnovers too. They were bad turnovers. But this is the thing, and I think Brandon could comment on this too. The date today, it's February 9th, right? And we played halfway through. We played all the non-conference. We played halfway through the Big Ten season. We're playing some teams twice now. And this team doesn't have a set rotation. They don't have an identity. And that is what I talked about a lot coming into this year, is that we have to find a way, if the growing pains come and, you got to go through some rotation things, that should be worked out in the non-conference and worked out at the start of Big Ten play. Right now, you kind of need to know who your guys are, who your dogs are, and who you're riding with. I still, last night, a funny stat someone showed me, Michigan State made 22 made field goals in the whole game, but they had 24 different lineups throughout the whole game. We had more lineups than we did made field goals. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like as a team and as a coaching staff, you should have some type of rotation and identify who your dogs are and kind of ride with those guys. But it still seems like they're trying to figure it out right now, which is not good.
So this has been a long time coming, and you've heard some of this from me off air, Cart, but can I go there on air? Can we have a little bit of a Tom Izzo conversation right now on that? Are you ready for this?
I feel like you got to ask Brandon first, because I don't know if you could just have a Tom Izzo.
Well, I'd honestly love Brandon's input to this is going to be interesting for me, but I need to know you're ready. I need to see it in your eyes that you're ready for me to go there right now, Cart.
Let's see it.
Okay. Look. So here's where I'm at. We talk rotations, right? And again, that stat you just said is mind-boggling. He's playing more guys at weird time. He's subbing guys out that are playing well, it's scripted. He's playing everyone in the rotation seemingly no more than 20 minutes, except for Gabe Brown and Max Christie. And to me, I get this team's deep, but he's kind of been doing this shit the last 7 years. And I think Tom Izzo always wants a deep team, going back to his earliest days at Michigan State. And he's frequently had rosters that are deserving of going 10, 11 guys deep. But I think the best Michigan State teams through the years were teams that had pretty refined big minute roles from certain guys. And you could say this team maybe doesn't have people that warrant that necessarily, but Brandon, your year, you had Draymond almost never coming off the floor. You had Keith playing 30 minutes a game. You had you near 30 minutes a game, and then you had some role guys around you three. Going all the way back to the last Final Four Michigan State has made, which was in 2015, or before the Cassius Winston year. But going back to 15, though, the March struggles have come with rotation questions, have they not? Like, and I'm going to say the name, and it's a trigger word, but like, Jaren Jackson was not playing 20 minutes for Michigan State team. And like, he's done this at multiple positions over the course of the last 8 years. And Cart, we are a far cry away right now from the state of the Michigan State program being every 4-year player makes a Final Four. Like, that's not happening right now. They've made one Sweet 16 since 2016. Like, that's not the Michigan State program. And to me, if you go year by year right now, the years that they aren't making those postseason runs are years where the rotations are a total mess. So that's my rant. Cart, I'm just going to throw it to you. And then obviously, Brandon, I want your input on this as well.
I don't know. I'm not with the majority with it's Izzo, so we can't question him. Like, every person deserves to be, it's okay. Like, it's okay to love Izzo and appreciate what he's done, but also maybe question some things. That's part of life. Everyone gets questioned. Like, it doesn't matter. I get questioned at my job. Greg, you get questioned. Brandon, I'm sure you get questioned all the time. Like, it is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, if I was to go around with us right now and ask who's Michigan State's best player is right now, like, I personally would say Malik Hall. And Malik Hall is playing role player minutes. And it just doesn't, like I said earlier, Greg, like, we're not putting our best foot forward, because I think that Malik is our best player right now. And on any given night, Malik's playing 20 minutes a game? I think Marcus Bingham is one of our most effective defenders. He's playing under 20 minutes a game on a nightly basis. Honestly, as of late, it's been closer to almost 15 minutes a game. So it's just like, you're not putting your dogs out there. You're not putting your team in the best position to win basketball games. And that is, as a coach, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put your team in the best position, have them prepared, and put them in the best position to win basketball games. And right now, I do not think that's happening.
Brandon, what do you make of this?
So what I would say, I think it comes back to what you said about identity, and just understanding each player's identity from an individual standpoint, and then what it is that they're meant to bring to the team. So I feel like the teams where the rotation was probably more locked in and more efficient and more, structure from game to game, more similar. Those are probably the teams where, he knew who each of us were. He knew who the dogs were. He knew, who to trust. He knew who was going to step up, all through the lineup, who, multiple players who could step up, So I feel like, when there's different rotations like that and different lineups, it's obvious to me that, there is a question of the identity and that who, the coaches are going to trust when it comes down to, championship time at the end of the season. So I don't necessarily feel like the different rotations, the different lineups is a bad thing. I feel like if it were the same lineups and we were losing, that would be a bad thing. So it kind of just tells me that the coaches are still trying to figure out, who they're going to be able to count on when March gets here. And, sometimes that takes a little longer than usual. It's always, everything is a process, from an individual standpoint and to a collective as a team standpoint. So, you can't, although we would want players to be more prepared and playing better now, it's like, you can't really expect that, obviously as a critique of the game and, people who speak on the game for a living like yourselves, you comment on what you see, obviously, but, to not respect that it's a process from an individual standpoint, whether that process, comes full circle by March or whether it doesn't, or whether some players pick it up early, it's kind of, everybody's kind of on their own time, so I feel like the different rotation and lineups, I don't necessarily feel like that's a bad thing. It just shows me they're still trying to find that identity and, try to see who they can trust and who they can count on, because those decisions are made off of, coaches really being able to trust you, you know, and that trust, that's not only just trusting you on the basketball court, that's trusting you with their kids, you know, or in their homes, or, you know, it's like, it's a deeper trust than just knowing that you're going to know the play on the court or knowing you're going to know your assignment on defense. So it's like these coaches, they're really like reaching in different ways to see who they can, you know, challenge and who they can trust, you know, and if you show them you can't trust them or they can't trust you on whether it's a one little mistake, it's like they hold you to a level of accountability to where it's like, you know, they're gonna take you out the game. You know, they don't care if you're Jaren Jackson and you're not playing 20 minutes, or you're Malik Hall and you're still playing role minutes, even though you're looking like you're probably the best player on the team. It's like that's kind of beside the bigger point, you know. So it's like I kind of understand it, you know. So maybe that's a different insight for you guys to kind of look at it from. But you know, it's just part of the process. You know, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, that's great insight. It's very hard for us, obviously, being far removed, to like try and wrap our minds about this. And it's very easy to just nitpick and point fingers and be like, this guy should be playing more. Like, I don't want to be doing that, because I don't think there's a black and white answer with this team, specifically with this roster. Like, I think there's 11 guys who warrant playing rotation minutes right now. I think it's kind of like a chicken or the egg conundrum for me of like, okay, we're saying this team doesn't have an alpha, and there's a lot of guys who maybe haven't earned full trust, and there's a lot of guys who we think aren't playing to their ceiling, but like, are they not earning trust, and are they not playing to their ceiling because they're playing 18 minutes a game, doing a 50-50 split with one other guy? Like, we've kind of talked about Malik Hall versus Joey Hauser, and Joey Hauser's a guy who gets shit on, for lack of better words, by the fan base. And I think that's really turned around lately, because Joey Hauser's played a lot of really good basketball. He's rebounding the hell out of the ball. He's shooting the ball well. Wisconsin game, not included in that statement, but like, he's had a very solid year. Malik Hall's a captain. These two are basically playing one-on-one for minutes. And I guess like my question is like, what would a 40-minute a game Malik Hall look like? Not that he would ever play 40, but like, are we sure that like a Malik Hall playing 30, 32 minutes a game isn't an all Big Ten player? Are we sure that Joey Hauser locked in at 30, 32 isn't a better version of Joey Hauser than we're seeing right now? Like, and I think you can go up and down this roster and like point, okay, like Marcus Bingham at center is clearly the best option of the three, right? I'm not saying Marcus Bingham is a 35-minute a game guy and he has conditioning issues. I get it. But Marcus Bingham is the best center on this roster. And he's still in a timeshare like he's not. Like a 25-minute a game Marcus Bingham to me is probably as good, if not better, than what Marcus Bingham does in 17 minutes. And even point guard, it's a 50-50 split with Hoggard and Walker. And they're bipolar, and one night they're good, one night they're bad. But like, what if AJ Hoggard was just a consistent 28 minutes a game guy? Are we sure that that's not a better version of AJ Hoggard than the one that gets subbed out every time he makes a mistake? Like, to me, that's where I'm at, is like, if we want to talk about no trust, like, I feel
like it's something like they, like, man, if I understand what you're saying, but it's like, obviously they're not stepping up and taking that role and taking those minutes. It's like, because like you said, there's been players in the past who have played those level of minutes. You know I played a lot of minutes when I was there, and I was a role player, you know, so it's like, if you gotta, man, it's just, the minutes are there, you know. It's kind of just, and it's more than just what we see in the game, you know. It's like it's stuff that it's preparation and practice, you know, how players are practicing. It's, you know, stuff that might be going on in the classroom, you know. So it's like, it's not only just the performance that they're, you know, I wouldn't say their role is being based on all that, but it kind of is, you know, because it's like it all goes back into that trust, you know. And it's like, if I feel like I need to be playing more minutes, I'm going to do what it takes at the end of the day to, you know, prove to the coaches, or I'm going to go meet with the coaches and ask them what do I need to do to earn these more minutes or earn a bigger role. You know, that might be something that, you know, I know if I ever had something to say, I never bit my tongue, you know, so that might be something that's holding these players back, is, you know, taking that initiative and really, you know, Izzo, you come sit down with me and let's talk about this and see what I need to do to bring more of a bigger role to this team, you know. So it's like, that's but that takes a different mentality. You know, it takes, you know, stepping up and being that alpha, having that dog in you to where it's like, you know, okay, if I want to play all these minutes and I have all this potential, you know, I'm going to figure it out, you know, and if I can't, to me, it was like, okay, if I can't make a mistake, then if I want to play those type of minutes, I'm not going to make any mistakes. So it's like, although you make mistakes, like if you approach it the right way, I wasn't making very many mistakes on defense or on offense, specifically on defense. Draymond wasn't really making any mistakes on defense. Keith wasn't really making any mistakes. You know, AP, he wasn't making many mistakes. So it's like, you know, you just got to step up and you know, accept that level of accountability, because it's going to bring the best out of you. And if it's not, it just shows me that you just kind of can't handle it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all fair. And I think as you rattle off those names too, like maybe we are all really overanalyzing this. And it's more just about like, let's individually think of the players we're discussing here. Like you named Draymond Green, who's a 10-time NBA All-Star. You name you, who's had a very successful overseas professional career. You name Adrian Payne, who was drafted, I think, in the late lottery. And like, again, like there was no question that these guys at least were talented enough to like, they just need to mentally limit their mistakes, and they're going to be deserving of shit like that. Like I look at this Michigan State roster, quite frankly, who's the pro basketball player on this roster? Like, it's tough, right, Cart? Like it maybe we're overanalyzing it of like, oh, why isn't this guy playing 30? Well, he's not playing 30 because there isn't a guy who should play 30 on this team.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, I think the overanalyzing might come from losing. Like obviously, like when stuff isn't going right, you're gonna analyze and look at everything, especially, you know, us who talk about it. Like we're gonna nitpick and analyze it, everything. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is that let's try some shit. Maybe it'll work. Like maybe give Malik like 28 minutes and let's see what happens and let's go from there. Let's see if Bingham can play like 25-ish minutes and go from there. Like I think in the Rutgers game, for me, it's not that Bingham is getting subbed out. It's the fact that he'll be like doing well and he looks like he's fine, and then he gets subbed out. Like it doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter if he comes out and hits 3 straight threes and has 9 blocks and like some crazy numbers in those first 3 minutes. When that big ass scoreboard in the Breslin says 17 minutes, you can bet everything you own that Julius Marble will be at the table ready to come in for him. But the thing is, you can see when a player's tired. Like if they start doing, you know what I'm saying? Like when they get lazy on defense, they're leaning on people in the post, you're having lazy fouls. Then you're like, okay, he's tired, go get him. Or maybe even Marcus himself is like, hey coach, like I'm playing hard. Like I just had a nice like 7-minute stretch right there. I gave you everything. Like give me a breather, like tug on the jersey. It just doesn't seem to be the case with him. So then it just leads to speculation. Like who knows? It could be after effects of him having COVID. It could just be him not being the most in condition player. Like that's how some players are. It's not easy to get in shape. I think people should realize that it's hard as hell to play at a high level of basketball. It's not easy to get in shape. Some guys just can't pull it off. So I don't know. It's just, I find myself just wanting to see if it works. Like you might as well. Like why not? You know what I'm saying? Like throw some shit at the wall, see if it sticks.
Well, I think like to isolate baby steps here of where we'd like to see this go. Like Malik Hall's a captain. There's some level of trust there from the preseason. Like, again, maybe it's that nobody else on the team's deserving, but like there's some level to be named a captain by Tom Izzo as a junior, no less. Like Malik Hall's in his 3rd year in this program. He's a captain on this team. He's the 6th man on this team. And in conference play in 22 minutes a game, he's scoring 10 points, pulling 5 rebounds a game, over 1 assist a game, 54% from the floor, 50% from 3 on 2 attempts. Like he passes the eye test as the most talented player on this team. And I'm hard pressed to think of other Big Ten programs this season where he wouldn't play 30 minutes. Like you throw him on Michigan, he's playing 32 minutes a game. You throw him on Illinois, he probably starts at the 4 and plays 28 to 30 minutes a game for a really good Illinois team. Like that's to me the next step. We're talking like one thing has to change. Like we got to get our captain playing more minutes for this team. It's crazy to me. I did a quick research while when Brandon, you took the mic for a moment there to test out my theory going back to the 2015 season. And the 2 seasons that this is convenient, the 2 seasons that they made a Final Four run were the 2 seasons in that span since 2015 that Michigan State had 3 players playing 30 minutes or more. Every other season, for the most part, they have one guy playing 30 and a bunch playing 20.
That's skewed though, because you had guys on those teams who were 30-minute game players. Who's on the team? Cassius Winston. I think he should be a 30-minute game player.
Let me push this back. The Cassius and Xavier Tillman one for sure. The Final Four they made in 2015 was not the most talented Michigan State team we've ever had. Like that was Travis Trice really emerged down the stretch, and no shots to Travis Trice, who was a guest of ours a couple of weeks ago. Like he was fantastic, but like that team lost 12 games that season.
Travis built like that though. He I remember his first year, like he came out, he didn't let none of that extra stuff that when Izzo used to try to get on him, like as a freshman, he's got it in him, to where I knew he was gonna have a great career.
Yeah, the quote unquote dog.
He mentioned that on the episode we had with him. He's like, because we asked him about Tyson, of course, what would you give advice to a point guard that's in Michigan State's program? He's like, I mean, honestly, he's like, you just got to have that dog. Like, Izzo likes when you go back at him sometimes. Like, he's like, I'd be in practice. I go right back at his ass sometimes. And, like, Izzo likes that type of stuff.
Or Izzo will tell him not to shoot, or they'll tell him not to shoot, and he's shooting it every time. But it's like,
it's just a different mentality, like you said.
Yeah, he was built for it, for sure.
So, like, okay, are there like Gabe Brown has that a little bit, right? And I guess he's playing a bigger role on this team, but like Gabe Brown will go back.
He's playing 30, but I'm saying he's playing 30 minutes a game though. Is he not?
Yeah. So we're like, is it fair to say this team just doesn't have that mental quote unquote toughness or like the dog that we've come to associate with good Michigan State teams?
I mein, that might be the case, man. It might.
And if that is what it is, we got to work with what we got. He's got, that's the hand we're dealt. We got to make it work. We got games to play. We can't not go out there because we don't have, that guy that wants to take over. We got to just, we got to make it happen. Even though I have seen some things from Malik that shows he might have that in him. Like during this Wisconsin game, we were all struggling, and there was a point in the second half where he went takeover mode, like 3 straight possessions, hit a 3 ball off the pick and roll, second one, a little like left to right, layup with the right, and then he finished it off like this was all 3 back to back to back. The next possession, kind of working from the top of the key off of that pick and roll, jab, spun, dunked it. I was like, okay, he's in mode right now. Like I could kind of see he has that ability to do it, and I think he's shown it. Like in the Illinois game when we were struggling, there was a time in the second half where we were riding Malik Hall. Like we were like, let's see what he does. He's either gonna make the play or he's gonna score. But that's a thing where we get to the second half and we're down, and then we start leaning on Malik Hall. Maybe let's just lean on him from the start, and then if it's not his night, we shift, go somewhere else. But let's start with him and let's go from there, basically.
Yeah, I think there's guys that have that. Like I think Malik has it. I think Gabe Brown has it at times. I think AJ Hogard has shown that he has it at times. Maybe not every game, but I guess that I don't know. Like I isolate those 3 guys, and I'm just like I feel like they fit a lot of the things we love about some of the best Michigan State teams and players and alphas. Which is why I struggle with some of their roles still being.
I mean, sometimes you got it, and you just kind of getting the best of yourself. At time, so it's like there's some players that are built tough mentally, physically, that got that it factor. But like I said, everything is a process. You can kind of get the best of yourself through stretches, and just still be trying to figure out how to deliver that. So I mean, I wouldn't take away from their toughness. Some people just have it naturally and just walking within it, and some of them just figure it out along the way. But yeah, it's I think the group still has potential to finish the season strong.
All right, I have some rapid fire questions that I'll throw at you guys, and answer these as quickly or as long-windedly as you want to. But NCAA tournament time. What point guard plays more minutes for this team?
AJ Hoggard.
Do you want to elaborate on that or just keep that at AJ Hoggard?
I mean, I think it's the fact of the matter. We talk about it on a lot of previous episodes. I think when you have 2 point guards who one hasn't clearly, well, I don't know, maybe to some one hasn't clearly shown to be the better option. To me, I feel like Hoggard has shown to be the better option at this point. So that's who I'd like to ride with going at this point. I think like that's the way it should be for some people on this team. Like if Hauser's hooping extremely well, ride Hauser. If Hall's hooping well, let's ride Hall. Like because we have depth, I don't think that necessarily means you have to play everyone the same amount of minutes. I think that should give you more options on whose night it is or who you want to go to. So for me right now, I think the better option is like Hoggard playing the majority of the minutes and then like Hoggard getting 26 to 28 minutes and then, Tyson getting the rest.
Okay. I think I agree with that. Brandon, I've seen some, I don't want to say explanations, or I've just seen some takes, I guess, on Twitter in the last day of people that are like, let's not overreact to this. This is February. Have you not seen a Tom Izzo Michigan State team in February before? Like that's not March. This is Mr. March we're talking about. Give it time. It always corrects itself. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a fair interpretation of the Michigan State program in general and also this team specifically?
I think it is. Since I've become familiar with the program, since I finished playing, I've heard that same sentiment kind of a few times, when we've had some tough stretches and kind of seeing where we're heading into the postseason. But, I still have hope, I know we have some good players, but just, they're just going to have to step up, and it's, sometimes it's okay to be overlooked, and, kind of not be taken serious. But, once we get into March, hopefully, from what I've seen, even the teams that have had those doubts throughout the season, once March comes, we, more times than not, we've still went on a little run and, had some, hope to make a run going into the tournament. So, man, it's really up to the players, the coaches. I know they've put in a lot of work to prepare them. It's just really on them to step up and see who's going to take the starting point guard or who's going to play the minutes, who's going to, be the playmaker, who's going to, take over when that time comes when it's needed. So, I have heard that throughout the year, so I'm riding with it.
Cart. Prediction.
If that's the case, I'm about to just stop watching in February.
Just wait until March.
This hurts me. If that's the case, I'll just, I watch through January and then catch me March 1st.
Okay, Cart, give me this team will go how far in the NCAA tournament?
Like just like ceiling floor or like what?
No, what like I could
national championship, of course. Yeah. What else?
I can squint and see this Michigan State team like finding a path to a Final Four. I can squint and see them losing first round.
But I think just right now, Sweet 16 is where this team.
Okay, let's call it this. I'm not offering this, but let's say you win $100,000 if you correctly predict the round that Michigan State's season ends, and you owe me and Brandon both $5,000 if you incorrectly guess the round.
Wow. Okay.
What round are you choosing? Because it's easy for you to say Sweet 16. Like that'd be a successful year.
I would bet second round.
Okay. I guess what holds you back from saying they would advance further? Obviously, a lot is wrong right now, but like, do you think that's round of 32 if Michigan State's playing well, or do you just like not think they're going to get to their ceiling?
I'm going based off what they're doing right at this moment. If they played the way they playing right now, second weekend is where I see this team's kind of journey ending. If the product right now is what we're getting in the tournament, that's where I would bet money that the
second weekend or second game. That's different, isn't it?
Second game.
Okay.
Can I give you a spicy rebuttal to that? You're not gonna like this,
man.
but
I don't like anything you say to me.
I think if you're saying how the team is playing right now, that's not a win an NCAA tournament game team. It's just not. Like we can, and this is not just the Wisconsin game. Like, let's go back how many weeks at this point? Let's go back to the game before the loss to Northwestern. They beat Minnesota at the Brez by 2. That's a bad Minnesota team. They lost at the Brez to Northwestern without Pete Nance. Like, they got a schedule break again. Wisconsin misses one of their 2 best players, and they have a really, really good game at the Kohl Center. They beat Michigan, who we all agree is horrible. Like, they catch Illinois without Kofi at Illinois, and they lose that game. They beat Maryland on a last-second shot. Like, a Maryland team is not going to make the tournament. They get blown out by Rutgers. They lose at, this has been a month now of both schedule breaks for Michigan State with who's playing and who's not. And you're right, Cart, every team gets breaks. Like, I'm not saying that, but given all that we know about this team's schedule in the last month, this has been a month of bad basketball, other than the blowout win against Michigan.
Yeah, but none of those months have been March, have they?
Well, that's, again, if this is all based on Mr. March, then I can see it. But if it's based on how the team's playing right now, that, I don't see how that's a win in NCAA tournament game team. But we'll see. They're going to get right. I guess, all that said, I do think the team will get right. I just think there's a lot to figure out that, we're very far away from right now that we talked about. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. We have how many games left? I think they have 7 Big Ten games left at this point. That loss hurts the championship hopes, obviously, but they find themselves only a game back in the loss column from first place in the Big Ten. Still games coming up against Purdue, against Ohio State, against Illinois. So you win your big games. This team is very much in the thick of it to still compete for a conference championship. Brandon, you returned to the Breslin Center a couple weeks ago. Did I see that correctly? Was that your first time back?
Yeah, that was my first time. I went to the Northwestern game.
Oh, that's a tough one to be at. Yeah, but how was what was the experience like of being back?
It was great, man. Just being able to sit right there behind the bench. Man, it was like we talked about before. That year it went so fast for me. It was just to sit there and be that close to the court. I just tried to, remember back to the time when I was there. Just the energy of the crowd and, just the emotions that's running through, the pressure that we're talking about, just thinking back and reminiscing on all that, right there behind the bench, it was a cool experience to be back for my first time.
They get you on the court and do the introduction and all that. The fans show you any love, any good stories there?
It was like a timeout or something. And they put me on the screen above and, it was cool to show some love to the fans. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. So, and there actually there was a cool story. So there was a little girl sitting next to us and her mom reached over my boy and tapped me. And she was like, do you mind if my daughter gets a picture with you? She was born January 5th, 2012. I'm like, man, I look at her, and it put into perspective, man, I've really been gone 11 years. This is 11-year-old girl sitting right here. I was born on my birthday, the season I was there. That was crazy. So that was a cool moment, kind of put it in perspective, show me I was I'm reaching OG status,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah,
it was a good experience. It was fun. Got to catch up with the coaches.
We're all getting old is my takeaway from that story. Because I was just gonna say, now when people check your ID, they don't even actually check the ID. If it has a 19 in front of it, they don't gotta check it no more. You're over age. You're of age. You're of drinking age. That hurts. Yeah. Lesson learned. Speaking of checking IDs, the last time we had you on the Sleepers podcast, we asked you your favorite spot in East Lansing, and you told us Rick's was the spot, which Carter was very excited about, as was I. I don't know if you know this. Carter, I don't know if you know this. I discovered this a couple weeks ago. If you go to the Rick's East Lansing website, a tweet with a video of our clip from that episode of you talking about how much you love Rick's is on the homepage of the Rick's website. So you are now a Rick's East Lansing ambassador, Brandon.
Hey, Rick's Hall of Fame. Stamp me.
Hey, that's the only Hall of Fame that matters, to be honest.
Jersey
in the rafters.
That's some great nights there. I'd rather have my jersey in the basement.
Yup, facts. You know the vibes.
100%. You walk down them steps and you never know what you're gonna get into, man. It's
might not come up.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it'd be the Madison Square Garden of college bars from my experience. Like there's something special when you step onto that floor. So yeah, shout out to Rick's. If you're listening, if this finds their way, you got another clip to throw on your website. Little quick lull in the Michigan State schedule, by the way, 2 games that I would consider very winnable. Home against Indiana and then at Penn State. Let's just go around the horn real quick. Brandon, let's start with you. What will Michigan State's record be in those 2 games? Home against Indiana, at Penn State.
2-0. Easy.
Cart?
I really think it is going to be 2-0. Like we're not going to, I think there's no way. There's no way we just go 0-3 and like with the way we lost to Rutgers and also having a chance to get back on track with a home game against Wisconsin. Like it's time. I think there's going to be a little bit of, inner revelation, look in the mirror for everyone involved, players and coaches and staff and everyone involved in the Michigan State basketball program. Like it's time. Like we wait. It shouldn't have to be now, but it is for real time to go now. Like hopefully that happens. I think we'll learn a lot about this team moving forward too. So then we can, make another judgment. But yeah, I think we're going 2-0. Those are 2 very, very winnable games.
Very winnable. I will say this. I will guarantee, knock on wood, a Michigan State win at home against Indiana. There's no chance to me that they lose that game coming off the 2 losses. It's just a must-win game, and Izzo is great in must-win games. At Penn State scares me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Penn State's held serve at home pretty well this year. Michigan just got them by a point, but Penn State was up 12 very early in that game. So I don't know. I think Michigan State should win it. I guess if I had to pick, I'd say 2-0 because I do think they'll stick around in the conference race, but the Penn State game scares me a little bit. So we will see. Cart, also, you talked about looking in the mirror about everyone in the program. Do you want to take a moment to look yourself in the mirror and maybe reflect on what you've contributed that could be leading to this Michigan State struggle? I mean, we're podcasting about Michigan State every single week. You have the victory goggles on. Like, do you want to own anything? Do you want to apologize to Spartan Nation here?
No, I feel like I've been putting my best foot forward every week, and I come with it. Like I'm cheering the boys on. I'm as positive as one can be when you're losing by 30 at Rutgers. Like I've been doing what I can do, and but no matter what, all the stuff I still bleed green to the day that I die, the day that I'm under 6 feet. On my tombstone, I want them to put Gruff Sparty and also put that here lies Carter Elliott, a big guard. All right. That's all I want on my tombstone. And that he was a family man. And it is going to be on there. So we're going to, no matter what, no matter how down bad we get, I'm riding for my dogs, riding for the Spartan dogs. We're going to get this thing right. I know we will. We have to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just a rallying cry. That's a rallying cry. Brandon, thank you very much for joining us again on this. Tell the people where they can find you. I know you got your own podcast stuff in the works, I believe.
Yeah, I do. And thanks again for helping me out. I might need a part 2 of that conversation just to kind of still round things out. But got a lot of stuff in the works. So just been focusing on getting healthy. So I'm finally recovered from my hamstring injury. So looking to hopefully get back playing here soon and just continue to try to, make a difference, put positive energy out there and just try to help people as much as I can. So thanks again for having me on here. And, thanks for everything y'all do and the support for the program.
Always. We'll definitely make a part 2 happen.
Yeah.
We'll how about I mean
you got to open invite anytime, Brandon.
We got to get you after a win though. Like the next time Michigan State goes 2-0, I feel like it's right that we return the favor and we can be a little happier. How about that?
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Cool. Love it. This was again the Unscripted podcast on the Field of 68 Network presented by BetRivers. We will be back next week, hopefully with some Michigan State victories to discuss. Thank you for listening.